Awesome. Okay, so like I said, just very excited to have this conversation with you, with our guest tonight and or this time. I'm just going live on our different platforms here, just making sure that everything is right. Looks like we are now live on LinkedIn and Facebook seems to be live as well now. And in terms of YouTube, we are also live. Awesome. So
Great.
that's very cool, very exciting.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I just want to take the time to kind of introduce everyone to our amazing guest tonight who happens to be leading or taking part in this amazing race of doing business in China, in Asia, which I think is a huge opportunity. And we see a lot of new businesses, not just in manufacturing, but also in technology, emerging from China. And so, our guest tonight, she's originally from Mexico and then moved to China in 29 with a scholarship to learn the business, the culture, and even the Chinese language, which I think is very nice. And then fast forward to 2011, she joined a multinational company from Mexico, uh, who had a partnership with different licenses, from what I understand. And for what I know, our guest has also developed products for brands like Lamborghini, Hello Kitty, Icon, DC Comics, among others, as well as becoming a co founder of a company of manufacturing services and many other really, really amazing stuff. Just want to say, um, I just really want to say uh, thank you and welcome. I just want to say, very excited to have you here, and I know that our audience is also very excited. We're all very, very excited. So yeah, welcome,
That was, thank you,
Laura
thank you.
Cortes.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you. I'm super happy to be here. My first time going live, so this is kind of a new experience.
Oh, that's very exciting. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure that you will have more experiences like this, and it's gonna be good for everyone listening.
yeah.
So, I just want to say, maybe just start by maybe having you tell us maybe a little bit more about your career or your background, anything that maybe you would have liked me to say about you to introduce you.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that I would like to share about me and people to get to know me better, it's how I came to China, which is, I guess, the most basic question, right? How somebody from
Yeah.
Mexico in 2009, when, I mean, China is, it was not as well known back then, I guess, as is now,
Mm-hmm.
how I came here. And after I finished my business degree in Mexico, I decided to take a scholarship, and it was by kind of between luck or not, because I have a good friend and he called me when he was flying back from Malaysia, back to Mexico. He called me and he's like,
Nice.
Laura, could you have you considered going to China? I'm like, no way. My first
Mm-hmm.
thought was like, there is no way I'm going to China. It's not something that I had ever thought
Wow.
about. And it's just so far, like it's just something that never think. It's, I guess, there are other cultures closer to my culture as well. We have more knowledge of of USA. We have more knowledge of Europe, so it seemed more natural that if I migrate, I will migrate to some places like that. But I started doing my reading. I started talking to people, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I will give it a try, especially because business is something that is thriving in there. And I applied for a
Awesome.
scholarship. I took a year, and I sold everything, and I had like $150 in my pocket, and I arrived to China, and I was extremely different. I had a shock culture when I arrived. They
Mm.
they have different ideas, but it has been the best decision of my life. It was so far
Wow.
it has
I'm
been
pretty
great.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, it has been great so far. I had the opportunity to develop my career here. I have met people from all over the world. I have done business with different companies, from small entrepreneurs to multinationals. Like I have business with a great girl that was starting a pillowcase in Indonesia,
Mm.
to having meetings with Inditex, the company that owns Zara and Massimo Dutti. So it has been great because I've been able to hear all of these stories, develop all these products, and have all this knowledge that now I really want to share.
Wow! Congratulations. Just
Thanks.
congratulations. I think that's pretty awesome. And yeah, just being awarded a scholarship, beginning there is just a goal for a lot of people,
Yeah,
right? So I know it's not easy,
yeah, it
and
was
it
not.
takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
Um, so what was the primary reason um of your trip there? Did you get like some sort of like a job offer, or how did it work?
So I was in the scholarship for 2 years, and that was the plan. It was to stay in China for 2 years, but I really liked it. I like the country. I like the people. I still struggle with the food sometimes, but I really liked it, and I decided to find a job. I already had job experience back in Mexico, but when you move to another country, if you don't have experience working in that country, and especially such a different country as China, it can be tricky because
Yeah.
there is a lot of competition, and they will prefer a foreigner that already has working experience.
Of
Or
course.
usually the ones that arrive are expats. I was not. I was a student. I had no experience working in China. So I was like, well, what I'm gonna do? And I started just applying for jobs, from entry positions like sales representative, consulting. But at the end, I landed a job in Shenzhen, which is the city I'm living at, as a sales manager for a Spanish company that manufactures helmets.
Mm.
And that's how it started. That was my first job. They gave me the chance. Still grateful to this day. They're very nice people.
Mm.
But the company was not in the best place at the time, so I have to keep looking.
Right.
And that's how I landed my job with brands, with the Mexican company, and that was the company that opened all the knowledge that I have now. That was the first step, because I developed products for other brands, international brands for that matter, and I learned everything about inspection, sourcing, negotiation, manufacturing, and I went to everywhere in China seeing suppliers.
Wow.
I learned to sit down in the lunch and close deals with Chinese people while eating, because that's how they do it. So it was
Wow.
interesting, and mostly the goal of doing business, which has been always my dream, like to have my own company and do business,
Hmm.
drive me to stay here. It's easier here than back at home. I've been
Mm.
talking with other entrepreneurs from different countries, and they think the same. There is a lot of opportunities here for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, I'm actually um weirdly enough, I'm actually reading through a very nice book, a very good book on artificial intelligence, and it just talks a lot about China. It's just like the main topic almost. So that's very interesting. I know there is a lot going on there. Um, Now, what would you say? What recommendations would you give to someone who is trying to do business with China for the first time?
Well, my first question will be, what's your goal? Like, do you have a written goal on paper of what you want to do? And really define that part. Do you want to bring your product to China? Do you want to buy a product from China? What kind of product? Where do you want to sell this? And above everything, and this is something that I always tell everybody, know your client. Who are you going to sell this product that you have? Because a lot of people reach out to me with the same question, like, I want to start business in China and I want to buy a product. What do you recommend I should buy? And
Hmm.
I am honest, and I'm like, Listen, if you don't know, I
Hmm.
cannot tell you. I just cannot tell you. But I can help you, or I recommend to them sit down, sit down, sit down and really write down what you want. Like highlight where you're going, know your clients, know your
Right.
market, and then come here with a clear and defined idea of what it's gonna be. Otherwise, the options and everything is gonna be too wide that you're not gonna do anything. So you need to
Hmm.
narrow it down first. That would be my first advice.
That's yeah. I think that's very realistic, and where a lot of people maybe try to start when they actually don't have an idea yet, right? So maybe it's
Yeah.
good to get to the basics. What about doing business remotely? Say from somebody who is not in China but wants to do business in China,
Yeah.
um, and it's maybe not either capable or willing or interested in traveling there.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. I have customers and I have people reach out to me with similar questions and a lot of concerns. I know that a lot of people are still nervous of doing business with China when they don't know them. And traveling has made this feeling even worse because
Hmm.
how can I place an order or do business with somebody that I haven't seen, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
people after COVID started to do a lot of e-commerce as well. They really want to thrive in that, obviously, because COVID gave a boost to this industry. So they do ask me, how do I start? And I said, listen, actually, you don't need to travel here, at least not now. Like if you don't want to or you don't have the budget, just don't do it. But learn to find the resources online, and they're out there.
Hmm.
Learn to use the right pages, for finding products. Find out who can offer you inspection services so they can visit the factory in your name and it will be cheaper than if you travel. So use all these tools, technological tools available for you in order to do business with Asia and you will be fine. You just need to learn how to use them.
Of course.
Yeah.
Um, what would be your key recommendations to sourcing in China?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So the first, like in marketing, when we start doing any campaign in marketing, the first thing that we do is to define your target client, right? Like that you cannot build a marketing campaign if you don't have a correct profiling of your client. So it's the same thing when you do sourcing. You need to do a profile client of what manufacturer you want to work with, who, oh,
Okay.
what kind of manufacturer you want to work with, and highlight what you need. Like, okay, I want a manufacturer that can deliver at this time, that has this price. And once you define it, that you have this information, you go and you find this on platforms like Alibaba, Made in China, many others available, and find that, and it will be easier because you already know the profile of supplier that you need. Instead of going and be like, okay, so I need to find somebody. Like, no, like it actually works in a similar way. So first define the kind of supplier that you want to work with, and then go get at least 6 options from different pages and talk to them. Talk to them first, see if they fit your profile, do a ranking of the services that they give you, and then start working with them. That would be my I think my recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. So, what does this profile include? What should it include? You said the type of budget, the cost, when it can deliver. Is there anything else that we should consider?
Yes, so there are actually several things where the factory is where the where the factory is located in China.
Mm-hmm.
There is areas where certain products concentrate. Like if somebody manufactures textile, for example,
Mm,
it's not all over the country. It's in an area of the country. So you will
right.
know that if you find somebody that is not from that area, maybe be suspicious of that. So where it's located, the size of it, the product, of course, that they specialize, because you will, a lot of people usually ask me like, why if I contact this manufacturer for an electronic, they're also offering me face mask. And I'm like, maybe because he's not a manufacturer, maybe he's a trader. So you might want to take a look if you want
Hmm.
to work with them. So what products they specialize on?
Right.
The price, of course. What port they're close to, because your logistics matters. It takes a lot of your cost. So you need to know which port they will be able to deliver your product, so you understand your logistic cost to ship your products to your country. The certifications that they have, because not a lot of people know, but it's the backbone of international business. To have a certification for your product or a certification of the factory that they comply with the quality of our own country. USA has it, Mexico has it, Spain, Europe, everybody has it. So learn about this, and if they check all those things based on your requirements, of course, because maybe you don't want certain certifications, that will be a way. There will be a way to create that profile.
Of course, that's awesome. Now, you mentioned something about being about the areas and where if
Yeah,
I want to buy electronics and
correct.
that manufacturer or seller is not in the area where all the electronics
Yeah,
manufacturing companies are, you warned us to be suspicious about that. So
yeah.
why should be we why should we take that approach? What are the risks?
So, for example, in the south of China, where I'm based, there is it's a huge for electronics. It's huge. Actually, the biggest market in the world for electronics is
Hmm.
here in this city. And
Well.
the reason why you should be a little bit suspicious, not that they're scamming you, but maybe they're not manufacturer or they are not having the
Hmm.
best price for you if they're not in this area, is because the government facilitates to these factories to be here.
Hmm.
And they pretty much tell them like, okay, all of you that produce microchips, okay, all of you are here. So if you find a factory that manufactures microchips in a completely different area, they might not have the expertise to do it. Maybe they're new. They might
Right.
not have the right price, so they might be even more
Hmm.
expensive, right? And they might not even really understand what you want. Instead of going to the area where they really specialize on this, they have the experience, probably they have the price that you need, and they have also the range of products that you need or that you're looking for. That's why I give this approach. Like check on the area.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you for that piece of advice. Now, there is something I'm pretty sure that is very important about the communication style
Yeah,
and the cultural differences.
yeah.
What are your recommendations to sell successfully or to negotiate even successfully in China?
That's that question. I get it. It's actually a good question. I get it a lot, but it's a good
Hmm.
question because at the end of the day, it's really different the way we communicate. I mean, and I always tell people, and I tell this to people in Mexico, is like if even between us that we speak the same language, it's hard to understand each other what
Hmm.
we want to say. Imagine when you're working with somebody that has a completely different language, not even similar alphabet. And now I
Yeah.
add that sometimes there is no that's not even their own language. Sometimes we all speak in a third language that is not our language.
Right.
I talk to people from different countries, and I don't speak all those languages. I need to speak in English. I work with
Sure.
people from Egypt, I work with people from Indonesia, from Philippines, and they all speak another language too.
Yeah.
So I the way we should communicate, well, is the most effective way I found to communicate, not just with Chinese people, but anybody in the world that does not speak the same language as you, is to really use simple grammar,
Hmm.
really simple grammar, and be brutally honest. Like you
Right.
really have to say what you want. If you want green, say green, and don't assume that they understand your meaning. This We have a lot of between lines when we have a fluid conversation with somebody that has our same language. You know, a lot of, oh, this is what I understood. No, this is what this means. Especially in
Yeah.
Latin culture. In Latin culture, we give a lot of, oh, but you didn't get me. It was clearly that I mean this. I'm like, but maybe you
Mm,
didn't say it as clearly. So if you communicate with somebody from another country, you have to be clear. You definitely have to be clear.
of
And
course.
with Asian people, especially Chinese people, you need to double confirm if they got your meaning, because in China they are not. It's a little bit rude to say no.
Mm,
You know, they are not really allowed to say no, and also in their language, if you one day are curious about their language, you will realize that they don't have a lot of no's in their language.
mm,
So if you ask a negative question, usually you will get a negative response. Like an example will be, "Did you didn't close the door, right?" Somebody will, "Oh, I didn't." You know, it's like the typical answer. In China, they will be right, and you will be like, "What?" So did you close the door or you didn't close the door? And actually, what they're doing is that they answer with agreement to your affirmation. So they will say, "Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't close the door," but
mm.
they will not explain this
Wow.
to you. So that creates a lot of confusion, because you can ask the same question in a positive or negative way, and they will still agree with you. And it's like, which one, man? Like, tell me. So you have to really be straightforward, confirm that they got your meaning, and assume that they might agree or not agree with what you're saying. So you wanna communicate your idea well, or if you want to understand their idea well, double confirm and check if what you're saying they agreed with what you're saying.
Of course. That makes a lot of sense, and that's very interesting. Of course, something that probably a lot of the people who listen to this do say that have had no idea about this. Um, and I think there are very common mistakes that you see people doing when it comes to communication and culture. What are some of those? What are the top three mistakes that you see people make when trying to deal with China, do business with China?
Oh, number one, don't keep anything via email. Nowadays, Chinese people don't use a lot of emails because of their technology is really way ahead than other places. And the technology that they use in here to communicate is just not as available outside of China, right?
Yeah.
Like this, as WhatsApp, for example, is not available in China. They use WeChat instead, and WeChat is not as famous outside of China, which creates a little bit of conflict, because if
Yeah.
you send emails to them, they might not answer right away. However, going back to what I said before, because they don't have the capacity, it's rude to say
Yeah.
no. It's better to keep things on email. Like, even if you call them on the phone, even if you text them, always double confirm via email. I keep saying that to people that work with me from other countries, from clients. I always ask them, like, did you send an email? Oh, no, I didn't. It doesn't matter if they don't answer you. Always keep an email. Always keep written evidence of what you talk to them.
Right.
Because even if you did have a conversation with them, maybe they were humans. Maybe they forgot and they didn't do it. They will be like, "Oh no, you didn't tell me."
Mm,
so
that's
so
very
it's
interesting.
just it's just hard, you know. Culturally speaking, it's just hard for them. So keep a written information via email, via WeChat, via WhatsApp, whatever. Keep written information. The second mistake that I see that people do a lot when they communicate or they want to do business with China is that they still have this idea that China is the cheapest.
Mm,
You know, like this concept, I still see it that they want to they expect extremely low prices, and it's just not the case anymore. It's
mm,
You will be able to find very cheap products, but the quality is going to be very low. And unfortunately, a lot of people that come and buy from China, they go for that. That's why it has been very hard for the country to move that idea away that Chinese products are low quality products. This is just simply not true. Like, you can find extremely good quality products in China, but they are not going to be cheap. They're going to be actually expensive now.
mm,
So you have to, people that wants to do business need to have a clear idea of the quality that is right for your business and the price that is right for your business, and then decide if truly is worth it to work with China or to work with another country. There are other countries in South Asia that are available as well.
Mhm.
And the third mistake that I've seen is that they don't want to invest in samples.
Mm.
And like, people want to buy in China, and they are not already, before they used to give you the sample for free, but this was like
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago. Now they're not. They're like, well,
Mm.
buy the sample. And samples are like 50, 80, $100, depending of your product. And people feel a little bit like discouraged, I guess, that they need to do this expense. But honestly, do it. If you're making an investment of $3,000, $5,000, $100,000, it doesn't matter the size of your investment. You don't want to lose this money because you were not sure that the product they're manufacturing for you or you're buying, it's just you didn't see it first, So
Yeah.
invest on samples. I've seen some YouTubers that they are like buying things, and oh, I got scammed. And the first thing I ask is like, well, did you get a sample first? Like, did you see what was happening? And they never say that. They never say if they really try to get a sample of the product. They just went for it. Like, don't do that, guys. Like, to anybody that listens, don't just buy something from China or anywhere. Get first a sample.
Right. Just like try it first before you buy it. Like don't go that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
So that's again just recapping the
yeah.
three biggest mistakes you see making. Um, Number one is not communicating, not yeah, communicating on written mediums
Yes, written
besides
communication. Yeah,
besides speaking spoken communication.
correct,
At the same time, not getting samples like you just mentioned, and
correct.
the other one,
That don't go only for the cheapest. Like,
don't
check.
expect the cheapest.
Correct. Go according to the right price, the right quality.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about best practices? Like, what are now looking at the opposite? What are the best things that what are the best negotiators doing in China, or what are some of the best practices?
In the order of how to negotiate a contract with Chinese people, or how will
Mm-hmm.
you?
And just in general, when you like we talked about the top three mistakes, say
Yeah.
now we talk about the top three best moves
Oh,
um,
I see.
or
So,
actions that people take to the business.
well, I recommend contracts. Recently, somebody,
Mm,
well, the first thing is definitely do a contract.
okay.
Before, that was not very common in China because they build in relationship. But now contracts is more and more accepted. Do it in English and Chinese. If it's worth it, the investment that you're doing. A container or two definitely should be. And also, how your payment terms. Never allow a Chinese supplier to ask you to pay full in advance. Like, the
Mm,
best, the people that I've known that has done the biggest like deals in China, they always have a way to ensure that their money is not gonna be wasted, and they do very low down payments for the product. They do 10 to 30% of the down payment, then they pay the rest once the product is finished, just to make sure that everything is okay. Because if it's not okay, you will not lose a little money, or you have negotiation power to make the manufacturer change what you want them to change. So definitely don't
mm,
pay everything in advance. Just pay a
mm.
deposit. And
That's very good.
if you are a small entrepreneur that wants to buy $1,000 or $2,000, try to pay with PayPal, because PayPal works in China, and you have a 6 months customer like insurance, where if you're not happy, you can complain with PayPal, and PayPal would get your money back. So that's a good way to protect your money. And another way is that if you have a very large amount of money, you can use escrow, a third party or a bank. So you protect your money, and make sure that your products are gonna be delivered, right?
Yeah.
And another practice that I've seen is definitely have somebody in China that will be your representative there. If
Mm.
especially now that people cannot travel, there are a lot of companies that are not really expensive in their services that they can just represent you here. They can visit the factory. They can even manage the payments for you, and you will be very, very safe.
Mm. That's a very smart move. Thank
Yeah.
you. I feel like people are definitely gonna love this, and it's definitely very helpful.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, putting the money in escrow while, yeah, while everything takes care of itself. Now you said something important, which was make a down payment of 10 to 30% maybe,
Yeah.
and then the rest. But when would that second payment of the rest be made? After you receive the all the products, or when?
Oh no, they will not agree on that, unless you have a long-term relationship with them already. If it's a
Okay.
first customer, they usually do. You need to do the payment, the second payment, once the goods have been loaded in your container. If the container is going to be low, because they're still holding documents to release your container. This is more kind of logistics thing. Um, that's when you do the payment. Like, okay, guys, you deliver the goods into my container. Now it's no longer in your warehouse. It's with my forwarder agent. Okay, I can pay you now. Or you can do it after you have inspected the goods. You can send somebody to the factory. They can review the factory, check that everything is okay, give you a report of this, and then it's like, okay, I release the money. Those are the two
Hmm.
ways.
Okay, that's very, yeah, on point. That makes a lot of sense.
And if you guys want to build a long-term relationship with the manufacturer and you want to wait a little bit, you can tell them, don't release the original documents yet of my logistics so I can import my goods. And I pay you when they arrive into my port in my country. Sometimes they can agree on that as well, but they do it once they know each other, you know. They're like, because it's the same. Clients that want to buy things in China, they want to feel safe, and safe for Chinese manufacturers. They also want to feel safe that they can trust their customers.
Of course. So that's one. Yeah, it's about probably working towards building a relationship
Yeah.
and building trust.
Yes, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Awesome. Now, what about, I think, another area where you also have a lot of expertise, and I know you could probably educate us a little bit more on, is product development
Yeah.
in China. What can you tell us about that as an introduction?
Yes. So, I, going back about defining what you want, if you want to develop your own product, which a lot of people dream of that, a lot of people dream, actually, a lot of people dream to have their own brand first. They would love to have their own brand, either in clothing or accessories, gadgets, or anything. And then there are other people that dream to have their own product. They want to design their own product. A lot of people confuse having your own brand with having my own product.
Mm-hmm.
Because having your own brand does not necessarily mean that you're developing a new product completely. A lot of people do drop shipping, for example, and that's just
Yeah.
not new. That's that's
Yeah.
that's that's a t-shirt or clothing or something, and you just put your logo on it and you ship it,
Of
right?
course. It's
Which is
brand. It's brand.
it's a great model, but it's just not developing a new product. It's just developing your own brand. So let's define really what you want. You want to develop your brand, or you want to really design a product from zero, so a product that has never been there. If you develop your own brand, easy. You just need to find the product that you like, as the supplier to put your logo in there or your design in there, and it's fine. And if you want to develop your own product, that's a little bit more complicated and requires more investment, because depending of what product you need to develop, you require to know which factory can do it for you. Maybe you do everything with one factory, which could be expensive, or you get all the parts that will make your product as a whole product, a finished product, control the cost, and then do the assembly in a factory. And you will be able to control
Mm.
more how it is. But as you can see, it's already a lot of knowledge, a lot of work, and a lot of investment. So we really need, people really need to define what they're building. Are they building brand? Are they building a product? What are they doing?
Mm.
For example, 3 years ago, in 2000, no, 4 years ago, I was helping a company from the Netherlands to develop a type of toothbrush, electric toothbrush. And they were developing a new product. And it took 2, 3 years of investment to get the right design, the right drawing, the tooling, everything. Other people wouldn't be like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I just want my logo. And there are other factories that already designed this, they already invested, and you just put your logo in there. So that would be my advice for people to start. Really, what do you want to do?
Right. What is the what is the product for developing a product? Sorry, what is the process for
The
developing a
process.
product?
Sure. So let's put an example. The easiest one of the easiest is developing new clothing. Requires fewer steps and is the core bone for everything else too. The first thing is that you need to design your product, assuming that you already know who your client is, right? All the marketing part is already done. So you need to do the rendering or the mock-up of your product, so you have a visual of what it is. Then you define the materials of your product. For example, in textile, the drawing will be the tech pack. The materials will be the fabric. There are tons of fabric, so you need to select the fabrics that you want. Then you need to create a sample, so you have a visual representation of your product, and you understand that is looking the way your vision is, because sometimes it's not the same on paper that really there, or the functionality might not be what you think once it's there. So you will have to make some prototypes for sure. 2, 3, 4 prototypes, because you keep improving until you get the right prototype. Once you get the right prototype, you keep track of your costs based on the materials that you have used. You create a bill of materials, a BOM, so you can enlist every cost, and then you just start manufacturing,
Mhm.
basically.
I guess yeah, you also set up some sort of like you said a prototype, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
as well as you get a sample when you want to buy, I guess you also make a smaller version of your product, a shorter version.
So there are several samples in according to the stage that you are at. You have like a like a white prototype, which is just no color, nothing, just the
Mm.
structure of it. Then you get with the material prototype, which you include those improvements. Then you get kind of final prototype, which is no logo yet, just final. This is it. Now I just need to put my logo on it. And then the final one will be exactly how it will look if it was already on your shop or in your business. That's the
Right.
one, that's the end, the final prototype. So that's why I said there are different stages of prototypes and samples that you develop while you're developing a new product. But the end goal is that the final product should be exactly as it's going to be on your shelf, when you're selling to your client. Like if a client sees it, you will be able to know if they want to buy or not. Like, and it
Yeah.
should work, it should fit, it should have everything. And then you have your samples. And also, this is very useful for your marketing. So you can start doing some market research or focus groups while you're developing, right? Like, it helps you a lot on that as well.
Yeah, that's very makes a lot of sense. So, at the same time that you're developing the product, you can also conduct uh, focus groups, interviews.
Yeah, yeah, because you want to see if you're on the right path, right? And you want feedback from your potential clients. Like, don't develop a product or don't buy a product that you don't know who you're selling to. Like, you need to find a client first.
Right. Now, coming back a little bit to the matter of actually setting up a contract with your, with the business the company you're doing business with. And you mentioned something about doing it in both English and Chinese.
Correct.
What's the recommendation for that? Should you how like I don't speak Chinese. I had no idea about the language and also
Yeah.
legal stuff. What if I get in trouble? Like, what should the contract say?
Of course.
What about that?
Very good question. Well, the first thing is that there are a lot of translation services. They're not
Mm,
expensive. Like, definitely get them. Especially Chinese English is not expensive at all. The contract
mm,
can be very simple. Just establish the responsibility just if party. The the key here is arbitration, where where the conflict, if there's any conflict in the future, is going to be resolved. And my recommendation is don't agree to do it in China. Don't
mm,
agree a court in China because there are international commerce courts all over the world
mm,
to mediate between companies precisely.
mm,
And China has one, Russia has one, Europe has one, Mexico, everybody has one. You know, everybody has this kind of international commercial courts. Uh, don't agree on China one. I guess imply reason. I don't need to say why, but you can do two countries that I think they're
please,
quite safe.
sorry to
Single,
interrupt, but please
yeah.
say why because some people may not know really.
Well, and you just don't have the power because they don't have international agreements to benefit
Mm,
people outside of China. They will side most of the time with their own uh,
mm,
people,
wow.
and you want to be neutral, right? You want to be neutral.
Yeah.
I mean, I will probably say the same thing about Mexico, you know.
Yeah.
uh, so there are two countries, two not countries, sorry, but there are one country and one area that you can definitely work at, uh, Singapore and Hong Kong.
Mm,
You can agree to have the resolution there. It's easier for you to navigate language wise, structure wise, and also they will be more impartial.
that makes sense. More neutral.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about solving those kind of issues? Is it necessary to have somebody show up in person to represent you? Do you have to go in person? What does that look like?
Well, that depends of the case, and I have a case actually. I'm the opposite. I was developing a product for a client, and this client was not happy. They were not happy with the sample because, and they decided to stop the project. And I was really trying to reach out to the client and be like, hey, let's solve this. Tell me what's happening. What can we do? Like let's negotiate this. But the client didn't want to hear from me. I don't, not just from me, like my whole team. So they went to PayPal, which is now why I recommend PayPal, and they complained with
Mm-hmm.
PayPal, and PayPal took the money from our account. Like
Mm.
the whole money that the client paid to us, even though we did all the job and we told PayPal this, they
Wow.
still side with the client and they took all the money. So I was like, wow, okay. So how can, first of all, good on you, PayPal, for protecting your customers. Uh, but second, I didn't think it was fair because we did deliver the products. It was the first prototype that we explained was like this to the client. Like, listen, like there
Yeah.
will be improvements. This is for you to see your first visual representation. And we have everything. We have all the evidence, everything. He just said, no, they didn't do it.
Jump the gun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how we solve this? We went to Hong Kong. We went to the People's Court, which is, like any easy court that people can go. We have no lawyer, nothing. We just file out a paper to complain with PayPal, which is this is an international company, very strong company. We set our case like, okay, this is our case. This is the timeline of everything. We print all the emails, all the evidence. We even brought us like a copy of the sample because we had two. We usually have two, one for the client, one
Mm.
for us, so we know what we're working at, especially when we're working from different countries. We went, we show like FedEx bill, like we send the sample to him, everything. And we even add our expenses for going to Hong Kong, for going
Right.
all the way. And the court sent a notification to PayPal and said, okay, you need to come or send a representative, and have a hearing, so we can check that out. And then PayPal reach out to us and they are like, hey, let's solve this problem, like outside of the court.
Wow.
And at the end, PayPal pay everything. They pay the money that they took from us back plus the expenses.
Wow.
So, yeah,
No wonder why you recommend them.
I do recommend it. Let me tell you something. I do recommend it. Even though my experience, I was on the
On
side
the
that got
other side.
affected. I still think it's good to know that if you are fair, like if you are honest as well, they will protect you. That's why I keep telling to my clients, hey, if you want to pay me and you are not feeling very confident, use PayPal. Or use one of these companies that are like intermediary, and they will protect you because I had already this experience, and I know that they will send you the money back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Such an experience. I think a full-on journey that you guys went through,
Yeah.
and definitely a lot of learning, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's how we learn, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, this is pretty awesome. Now, what is there anything else that you would maybe have liked me to ask you that I haven't asked you yet? Something that you would like to elaborate on?
uh, well, I don't know actually. I guess we talk culture, which is great. Culture is very important to understand how to communicate, how to I really don't know. I cannot think of something right now.
Yeah, no, I think we pretty much discussed everything, and that's
Yes, I think
super
so.
helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe just to finalize,
Mm-hmm.
we talked all about China. Now,
Yeah.
are there any particularities that you want to mention when it comes to doing business in other parts of Asia? Like, is it very similar to what it is like in China, or what are the differences?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So there are differences. There are differences for sure. When people think, especially in the West, when people think of doing business with Asia, immediately narrow it down to China right now. And they forget that other amazing countries are around. You have South Korea, you have Japan, you have Philippines, Indonesia,
Mm,
Thailand, Malaysia, right? So one of the same thing that I was saying about key areas in China, it works the same in countries. So find out which countries are thriving in certain areas. For example, textiles is thriving in South Asia. Not many people know, but Nike is manufactured in Indonesia, big part of it.
mm,
Puma is manufactured, big part of it in Malaysia because they do a lot of shoes. Crocs
mm.
is manufactured in Malaysia.
Wow.
H&M, it's manufactured in Bangladesh. Gap is there. Zara, a lot of Zara, it's in South Asia, Bangladesh, part of India. A big company from UK, Next, manufactures a lot in India, for example.
Mm,
So you check and navigate what product do you want to go and which countries are strong about it. Philippines manufacture a lot of microchips and a lot of components for smartphones, for example, and they
mm.
ship this to Japan. Who would have thought the
Wow.
Philippines will do this, right? But they
Yeah.
do, and it's low cost, and you can definitely do business. One of the key differences is that the English and the it's easier to communicate, I think, with certain countries. Do the background of them. For example, Philippines was a colony of Spain as well in one point. So and then they were with Americans after the Second World War. So they have a lot of mix in their language. Uh,
Right.
the language they speak has a mix of English with Spanish. Like we have
Mm,
similar words, so you can definitely communicate with them very good. With Indonesia as well, you can communicate with them. Oh, and you need to pay attention on the holidays. also because
Right.
they have different dates, so you need to do scheduling based on that. But definitely do explore of the countries. They are out there.
Check the calendars.
Yeah, for no, so many people. I forgot that Chinese New Year is in January. I'm like, I
Yeah.
mean, this year is gonna be in January. I'm like, yeah, you should definitely plan plan ahead. Or in Indonesia, there is the biggest country with Muslim community. So they have Ramadan, right? So these dates are like they also move and they also don't work. So we need to learn to navigate the other countries, other dates, not just in December or August or something like that.
Absolutely. Wow, that's I believe this conversation has been packed with a lot of goodies, a lot of really good information
Yeah,
and just very actionable recommendations and tactics to take on. So, yeah, I very much appreciate that and
yeah,
thank you for all of this. Now, I
thank you.
know that for those who are listening, they might be wondering how um they can get in touch with you or learn more about I don't know your own business or any ways of yeah learning
Of
more
course,
about you, getting in touch with you. What
of
would
course.
you recommend?
So I have website. I have my personal website, lauracortez.net. I can share later with you all the links so they can maybe be
Of
published.
course.
I have
Yeah.
my company website. It's olingoco.com, which I have a business blog where I talk about business in China, how to do, what's the best tools that you can use. I have some free
Right.
content there for people as well, like how to create your
Nice.
supplier profile. And via email, laura.cortez@alingoco.com. They can definitely reach out. I like to talk to new people. I always reply. So I'm there.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I mean, all of your links, all
Yeah.
of these links you mentioned and the links to communicate with you are going to be available on the show notes. And also, just to double check, I mean, and make it clear, it's lauracortez.net. So
Correct.
LAURACORTES.net.
Correct. Yeah.
And yeah, looking forward to that and possibly a future episode where you tell us more about what you're up to.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and keep rock and rolling.
You too. Bye.
Bye.